Okay, so we're live. Hello and welcome to everyone joining us on this month's episode of African Digital Ecosystems. So this month, I have a special guest with me, Mr. McKevin Ayaba, who is the CEO and founder of Set Up a Startup, as well as the convener of ASEB. So I'm not going to introduce him much. I'm gonna give the floor to him so that he can continue to introduce himself, and he's gonna give us a bit of his background and what he is working on currently. So over to you, Kevin.
Hi, Phyllis, and hello to our fellow listeners. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for this invitation to join this very important conversation, about the Africa startup ecosystem. True. As a founder of the Africa Startup Ecosystem Builder Summit and Award, and the founder of the Africa Startup Ecosystem Builders Society, and also the founder of Set Up a Startup. I've had the privilege of really working across 34 countries across Africa. Unfortunately, I've not been to Malawi yet, but I know a little bit about the Malawian ecosystem. I'm really excited to be here. But maybe let me just share more a little bit background about myself, or maybe how I got here. I'm an IT. I began my career as a Microsoft Certified Systems engineer. I work across various corporate across industries from the bank to telecoms to also I work at the UN called AMSCO program, Balawa Logistics. Um, and then also my whole career began when I really started seeing um, a lot of graduate. Like we said, we have about 3.7 million graduate entering the market each and every year, with nothing more than nothing up to 500,000 suitable for formal job market. And I decided to commit myself to looking at, if we are having this amount of graduate every year, and we're having this less job that fits for them, then there is a problem. We need to really start shifting our mindset from being a consumer to maybe start creating jobs. I guess that's where my whole story then began in 20, driven by this belief. In 2009, I decided to enroll at Gibbs to study entrepreneurship, because my mindset was, how do I be part of those who create jobs, right? So I decided to enroll for entrepreneurship in Gibbs in 2009. But fast forward 2015, my first idea that I had to do in creating jobs or being a full-time entrepreneur was tested, because I joined the KIPS, the Gordon Institute of Business Science, a program called the Festival of Ideas. Out of 140 candidates, top 50 were selected. I was one of those. Then string to top 30, and then string to top 5, which I was one of those top 5 winners. That was the very first time that I felt like, yes, now I can take my idea to the world, right? But I met that also. I met with a lot of challenges. I just won. Of course, I want some money, but that money was not enough for me to build that idea. And I realized that I needed mentor, I needed coaches, I needed incubator, I needed someone to hold my hand to help me to build that idea. Just like other startups that are struggling, but there was no one at the time winning. It was just like we just win and then we move to the next stage. We forget about us. And I like, no. So if this if I don't have anyone to hold my hand, that my idea has just been tested, been validated. I won from 140 participants. How many other ideas are out there that have arrived at my stage and not seen the day of light? And literally, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to create jobs. I wanted to be like one of those graduates to start creating jobs. But here I am, have an idea that's been validated, but yet no one is there to help me take this idea to see the day of life. So that's when, fast forward, I decided to find set up a startup to say, listen, to encourage ideas to be born, but also to start putting together resources that could help these ideas see the day of light, that to connect entrepreneurs to mentors, to coach, to capacity building, to investment readiness. So here I am up to today, almost 10 years today. I've mentored over hundreds of startups across Africa. I've helped raise funds to almost 2.7 million dollars in fundraising for entrepreneurs across the continent. I've had the privilege to speak to over 300 plus events across Africa and beyond. I've helped hundreds of startups to be investment ready. And then we also then found the other challenge of 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 the ecosystem, the ecosystem, to then say, listen, the people behind the entrepreneurs are really not having the right uh, the right resources that can help these entrepreneurs as well. So it brought me back to to why startup was born, right? To help the entrepreneurs. They also then bring me back to the realization that most people behind the startup, the ecosystem builders, also don't have enough resources to help these entrepreneurs to flourish. All right. So yes, as much as the startup ecosystem, in Africa has taken a tremendous change. I mean, from about five active tech hubs in 2010 to about 600 um, um, hubs across the continent today. It means that Africa's startup ecosystem is really growing. From about, we just look at in 2023, we reach a mark of almost 5 billion dollars within the startup ecosystem. It shows that we are really growing, but there is a serious gap. You have about 83% of this funding is concentrated within just five countries. You have Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt, um, 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 South Africa. All right. It shows that there is still
South
so much.
Africa, yeah.
Yeah, it shows that so much still needs to be done within the startup space. So I guess we'll go deep dive into this as we go along. So I thought, let me just share with you my brief background, how we got here, and what our ecosystem has been doing, and what still needs to be done.
All right. Thank you so much for that very well detailed introduction. So when you've talked about set up a startup and how you went from where you were and looking into how you can get into entrepreneurship and how also others can get into entrepreneurship, I think you have touched on a lot of issues there. One of which is how you have spoken about how most of the funding is concentrated in 5 countries in Africa. So right now, Malawi is kind of in its infant stages when it comes to building up thriving ecosystems and coming up with technology solutions that can actually serve not only Malawians, but can even work on the entire continent. So right now, I think what I would start with is, even for the Malawians that will be watching, is how exactly do we build to get to a point where we are like one of those countries? Because right now, Malawi is not a very large country. The first episode that I had, I hosted Mr. Gerald Black. I think I saw him on one of your platforms as well. He's Nigerian, and we got to speaking, and we talked about how Nigeria right now, like Malawi's population is only 20%. I mean, 10% actually of Nigeria's population. So there's a lot of stuff that is going on in Nigeria. There are a lot of innovations. There's a lot of their ecosystems are more thriving as compared to Malawi. But for a small country like ours, how do we get to a point where we have a thriving ecosystem that supports us here to create solutions for Malawi, seeing that our population is not even that much, whereas other countries have managed to create solutions that have served larger populations. So when it comes to the ecosystems and the work that they're doing to support startups, like how can we build ecosystems that support thriving startups here in Malawi?
All right. Let me say this as someone who traveled across the continent. Again, like I said, I've not been to Malawi, but I've been fortunate to work with some incredible ecosystem builders from Malawi and understand a little bit about the Malawian ecosystem. And this is what I can say. When it comes to Malawi, Malawi has one of the most strongest agricultural sector in Africa. Malawi is very strong. The Malawi agricultural ecosystem is very strong. And for me, and you have organizations like the MHub, which the founder won, I think our 2023 Ecosystem Builder of the Year. I also know that there's Growth Africa, they're doing some great work in Malawi. Also, the entire incubators that are doing some amazing work in Malawi. I would suggest that you need to use we need to use the Malawian agricultural sector to strengthen the Malawian ecosystem. It needs to start from there. Choose one thing, one sector that you are good at. It doesn't matter how big you are. The ecosystem, we cannot. It's not a competition. Every ecosystem faces similar challenges, right? Face similar challenges, but what you do within your ecosystem is what really matters. What you use your strongest sectors to push your agenda, and for that, I think Malawi, um, um, we should use the Malawi agricultural sector to we should leverage on the Malawi agricultural sector. Um, but another thing is building an ecosystem require very strong um, um, builders. It requires people to be very intentional. If you are not intentional, then we can never build the kind of ecosystem that we want to build, that we want to build in Africa. We must be intentional. We must have honest conversation. We must look at policies that hinder the ecosystem. You must emulate. When I talk of emulate, look at how other ecosystem work. We must involve the government. We must look at key players. We must constantly looking at the underserved community. Go right into the rural part of Malawi and really start talking about the importance of building the ecosystem. We need to start talking about the importance of solving our own problem, the importance of education. For me, entrepreneurship education is a huge part in changing Africa entrepreneurial ecosystem, in changing the mindset of our people. Our people need to start looking at solving problems using the technology that we have right now, because we can't escape that. As much as we have the SMEs, but we must start looking at how we leverage on technology to build a sustainable entrepreneurial ecosystem. So it starts with the mindset, and it starts with the player, with the people behind. So let's focus. Let's look at what the agricultural sector of Malawi is doing, and let's leverage on that, and and then start. We can start working on the other sectors as we go ahead.
All right, thank you. So one of the things that you have touched on when you were speaking about Malawi was how we have these innovation hubs. So not only in Malawi, but in Africa as a whole, most funding opportunities and these entrepreneurial skills and everything usually goes to SMEs. So the issue of SMEs is always kind of complex since SMEs make up most of the businesses in, I mean, not in Malawi, but generally in Africa. We have more SMEs than we do these technology startups. So I just wanted to know exactly how these ecosystems, like startup ecosystems, play a role in supporting those SMEs to kind of have access to funding, even have access to these entrepreneurial skills. Because there is a very big funding gap that we talk about when we talk about SMEs and startups. But even though there is this very big funding gap, there is more SMEs than we have startups on the continent. So even in countries like Malawi, where we have a lot of SMEs and these innovation hubs and incubation, like incubation trainings and stuff, entrepreneurial skills, most of these are going to SMEs. So the startup ecosystems, what role are they playing to kind of encourage even the startups to, okay, like, okay, you don't have to be an SME, you can grow your business or have these skills so that you can build your own thriving startup. Yeah.
Every innovative, every startup start with an SME. All right. So of course, the SME will always be there. It keeps our economy growing each and every single time. And the word and startup started, we started looking at startup just, it hasn't been too long when you see this word startup, the mindset started coming, especially in Africa and Europe and the rest. It has always been there. And it is important to make sure to know that let's still have our SME ecosystem, and let's still focus, let's also now start looking at the startup ecosystem, like you mentioned. For you to look at, you need to look at scalability. What is a startup? What is an SME? First of all, let's differentiate those two. All right. A startup is a scalable, it's a scalable business, something that can scale using technology or using innovation. Right. While an SME is just for a few hand to mouth or just save a few people. But a startup, you're looking at how do you scale beyond Malawi? How do my ideas impact? If Malawi, if we are having this this problem or these challenges in Malawi, could South Africa be facing the same problem? Could Botswana be facing the same problem? Could the neighboring countries be facing the same problem? And if I'm solving this problem in Malawi, how can I make sure that the solution is people can consume this solution in Mozambique, in Botswana, in South Africa? Now you think about scalability and how would your idea or how would your solution get to this country? It has to use technology. You start looking at what technology do I need to use, um, right? Now you start talking about a startup. Now you start talking about a bigger, a bigger market, a hundred of thousands, a millions of 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 people that your solution is 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 impacting. Is this solution? So that is the mindset we need to start thinking. Right? We're not saying that we are not saying that SME should go. We start looking at how, or also how does the solution that is in South Africa, one of the big economies, get to Malawi, and how do we stop reinventing the wheels? How do we start collaborating? How do we start partnering? If I see a solution in Malawi, instead of me starting the same thing in South Africa, how do I reach out to say, hey, Felix, I love your solution. I think South Africa is facing the same challenges in this market. Can we collaborate? Can I be a country? Can I sell your solution to South Africa? Rather than starting something again at edge, because that's the whole point. That's the some of the struggles that we face in Africa, where we see a solution instead of partnering, instead of collaborating, instead of working, seeing how we can work together to scale that solution. We want to copy the same thing. We want to start with afresh, targeting the same market. Whether we could already just we could already just work with what we already have. So we need to think beyond Malawi. That's the only way Malawian product will see will find itself on South Africa shelves, or in Mozambique, or in Nigeria. All right. So when you're building something, don't only say, let the solution be only for Malawian, but let this solution is this solution can this solution be an Africa's solution? Can it be a solution beyond Malawi? Now we are talking about startup. And if we need to do the, we need to go to Mozambique. What are the policies? What are the issues? How do we do business in Mozambique? How do we connect? And the only way to do that is to find a partner in Mozambique and share with them. And that is where the role of ecosystem builder they matter. That's the role of where mentors and coaches then come in, because mentors would guide you, would help you. Coaches will help you see how you can scale your business. That's the role. That's where the incubators then start coming in. Malawi incubators connecting with Mozambican incubator or accelerator program, right? That's the power of all these acceleration programs that are being that across Africa. You start entering this this acceleration program, this competition, to start talking about your business. So because it open doors. So collaboration, scalability is key. If you want to think startup, think of scalability. Think of technology. We are sitting here. We are using what are we using? Um, the StreamYard. Yeah. But I'm
Yes,
talking. I've never.
StreamYard. Yes.
You and I have never. You and I have never met. We are meeting for the first time on LinkedIn. Look at what connected us. But here we are trying to impact the life of people. We need to start thinking of something that we can use, people can consume, whether they know you or they don't. But the product, first of all, the product must speak, must really um, um, make sense. It must be something it, 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 it impactful. It must be something that is scalable. And of course, we all have, even with the agricultural sector in Malawi, which I know that is big, but in Malawi, you start looking at how do their product reach South Africa? How does it reach Mozambique? What kind of technology can we use? Right? I mean, if you're selling just tomato, which sometimes look at SME, do I need to only just how does my product? How many can I produce? How do I move from producing just from 100 people, 50 people in Malawi, and making sure that that we can export it to South Africa? Right? So we must think scalability. We must think technology. But because technology has come to stay, we must embrace it. We must have innovative. We must think of innovation. That is the only way a Malawian ecosystem can be counted among all their products can be competitive.
All right, thank you. So one thing that you've said and highlighted on is that when you think of a startup, you have to think of scalability.
Yes.
However, there is no scalability if you do not have the funds to scale. So when we talk about these ecosystems and how they support entrepreneurs or how they support technology innovators, I just wanted to know exactly the kind of support that a startup can get when it comes to getting and acquiring funds for scaling.
Okay.
One of the things that I've been seeing like online is how sometimes startup will kind of not value their business well, which can be a problem. So, for example, I'm in Malawi or someone who is in another country that doesn't have a thriving tech ecosystem, right? there's not much going on when it comes to startups in your country, or your solution is serving people but not that many people. So when it comes to valuing your company to kind of qualify for funding that matches your market and how you're serving the market. I just wanted to know exactly how these ecosystems can provide that support. So, because I see a lot of people talking about sometimes when people are valuing their startups, they'll compare themselves to other economies that are not in line with what is happening in that current market. So, I just wanted to know exactly how startup ecosystems can provide that support for other smaller startups or startups in smaller economies to properly value their businesses so that they get the proper funding.
Like I said, Felix, if we are to build um, a strong ecosystem in Malawi or in other emerging economy or Arab ecosystem or across Africa, we must be brutally honest. I always say it many times. Fund. Remember, I just said we receive over 5.9 or 4.9, almost $5 billion in 2020 in the startup ecosystem. Funds are always there. The truth is, funds are always there. But the key question that we have, most entrepreneurs or most founders are not asking themselves, even including incubator, accelerator program, or the people that support entrepreneurs, is do we have what it takes to receive the funds? Do I have what it takes to receive the fund? Am I ready? That's the big question. In other words, am I investment ready? We always say, oh, we don't have the funds, or no one supports us. Yeah, true. Listen, we we don't have so many um, most investors across in investment in Africa, in the Africa startup, because they come from the Europe, the US, the Asia, and the rest. And right, so many VC or venture capital or so many angel investors don't really have so much money to risk, right? Because it's a business, right? They don't have the money to risk. So for them to be able to make this, banks don't even give the loan, which of course we need to start looking at that. For you to acquire a loan from the bank, you must have collateral. You must prove beyond reasonable doubt. Right? The government have not provided all of those things. All right. We need to start looking at for investors to take risk. We need to have a lot of incentives for investors. Government, that's what I'm talking about. Good policy need to start looking at how do investors invest in the startup, what risk should they take, and what incentive do they have, so they can take maximum risks. But the key question comes back to founders: do we have what it takes? Can can we answer a few questions when the investors are asking? Are we investor ready? No one is going to take their money and just put it in just because you say you have this brilliant idea. Anybody can, do you have a proof to us that your idea can scale beyond Malawi? Prove to us that your idea has a huge market. Most startups don't even know their market. We must be honest. There is something now that in my experience, that I've been seeing, uh, coaching and much of facilitating program, we run to start developing apps. The first thing that we see in other entrepreneur is the first thing that they go when they have this idea, they go and develop an app for it. And for them, they think that's a business. Nobody has done a market research to find out if anyone will buy the product. No one even knows whether, if you ask them about their competitor, they were like, this is the new, I'm the only one in Malawi. Remember, you're not only talking about Malawi. You want to scale into South Africa. If you check what is South Africa, when you start looking at scalability, excuse me, you need to look beyond Malawi, beyond the country where that idea is born. If you want to look whether we sit here, we order things from China. I don't know Are there not shops in Malawi, in South Africa, and beyond? They are. Why is it? Why is Shin dominating? Why is the team dominating? Why is all of this dominating? Why are we using Zoom? Because Zoom is not our own product, right? We can consume anything anywhere, provided we think beyond where we come from. We have to be investment ready. Investors are not going to risk their money to put, just because you come and tell them that you have this idea. You must prove that you have a market for it. You must validate your idea. You must prove that um, um, you have attraction. It means that people are buying for this idea. You must know. You must prove that you have financial benefit to it. How you make money. And sometimes they ask, most entrepreneurs ask ridiculous amount of money. You will see a startup that is still in its infant state, that have not even sold even anything, still from an idea, and you ask them, they're asking you for someone can ask you for $100,000, $200,000, or $300,000, or $1 million, right? And they have not sold a pin. They have not proven any action. They don't even know what their market size is. And you even ask them, okay, how many percent do you want for your business? Someone said, no, I don't want anything. Or someone will ask for $1 million, or and then he said, I'll give you a 5%. On 5% on what? Right? And some will say, no, I'm not willing to bring in and to share with it. You are building, so I can't go 40%. I can't give you 50%. I can't give you 60%. Of what? Of zero? Right? Do you know how much Jeff Bezos own as the owner of Amazon? Not up to 15%. But he's the founder of, I mean, we're talking about trillions of dollar business. But you will have just an idea. You don't want to even you want my money, a lot of money, and you don't want to go for equity. You don't want to give me 30, 40, 50% of nothing. So we all keep holding on to 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 this idea. It's just to even share the idea with the mentor. You ask me to be signing an NDA that you won't of what, when you don't even have anything to show for. So we need to be realistic. We need to be honest with ourselves. We need to know our business. You need to know. You need to know that investors invest in something that has a financial viability, that has traction, that you can be able to prove your competition. You need to start thinking beyond. Oh yes, this idea is only in Malawi, but um, 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 what about, we need to think globally, right? When you're producing your pitch deck, you need to be looking from a startup perspective. You need to be looking at the competition globally, beyond Malawi, or beyond South Africa, or beyond your country. That's how you talk about. You need, if you are into the fashion place, into a club, your competition, first competition needs to be seen, need to be tema, and you need to tell us why you are different from these people. And don't use or say, oh, my is cheaper. You don't have to be cheap to be competitive, right? You must have something that is different from them, something that is appealing, something that has an impact, something that can bring in hundreds of people, or millions of people to buy. But first, start with being investment ready. You have to be investment ready. And what does it mean? It also means that you need to also know who your product, your solution is talking to. Is it for impact? Is it for profit? Are you a non-for-profit organization? Then you need to talk to people that are giving non-for-profit. If you're talking, if you is for profit, then you need to look at at VC. It's a social impact initiative because most startups they will say, okay, apply for this pitch, and you come, your idea is not eligible. Your idea, you're not looking for, you are not even looking for to scale your idea. Is a social impact, but you're talking to a VC. How do you expect a VC to even look, to even listen to you? That's why they come and say, "Oh, we talk to VC, we talk to this, we attend this event." They don't even question us because your idea, your business is not talking to them. That would about when you, if you are investment ready, you would know. You must know how to value your business when you are asking those questions. Right? You must be able to have some partners, some collaborations, some traction. You must have won some, maybe some awards. You must show that your business has a market. You must show that there is a need um, for your business. You must show that it's scalable. You must show that how big the market is. That's what they call investment, which most of us are not investment ready. But I don't also want to take this until the startup. I want to also talk about the ecosystem builder behind the startup, the incubator, the accelerator, the support organization. All right. We need to, as mentors, we need to be honest with the entrepreneurs. We need to we need to be honest. An entrepreneur need to find a good mentor that speaks to their business, that really help them, that guide them. You can't do this on your own. And maybe before I come back again to the ecosystem builder, entrepreneurs, most founders keep thinking another thing, major thing that will pick is that is I. They still have this thing of I'm the only founder. They still think that I sell. There is no such thing. I doesn't sell when you're raising funds. We sell. You must have start looking at the co-founder. You must have a team behind you. Do you have the right team? Because if you can't put together a team that can take that idea, investor can invest in ideas, of course, seed funding that everywhere, provided they could see that you have a team that could take that idea to the next level. And that's why that's where the mentor, the power of a mentor comes in. Who mentors you and who coaches you is key. So we must have the right mentors for our business. We must have the right coaches for our business. We must have the right team behind us for every business. But also to incubators. Incubators must start designing programs that speaks to entrepreneurs. Don't that's why we always say most incubators are run by people that have never founded anything, that don't even understand what it is. Of course, they are fortunate. We must be honest. They are fortunate that maybe they have the network, they have the connection, they want to support entrepreneurs. But you don't have to run. You don't have to run the incubation yourself. You must find someone that have been doing a business to help you, or you must learn how to run an incubation program. You must have the right program for this entrepreneur. That's why most founders keep jumping from one incubation program to another, one incubation program to another. They end up having 3, 4, 5. It means that the program that they are designing in this incubation program doesn't speak does not encourage entrepreneurship. So incubation managers must learn what programs should they be run. Not just about computer literacy, not just about financial literacy. It doesn't speak to that entrepreneur. Right. So we must also look at the acceleration programs. Also, we must also be honest with our program. We must also look at does this program before you join even an acceleration program. Look, which startup have this help scale? Which startup have they really help raise funds? Because it means that you take your idea, they help you accelerate, they connect you to potential investors. How many acceleration programs have helped you to be investment ready? So we must also look at the various acceleration program that we join. But the acceleration managers also need to really make sure that they have the right connection and rather frustrating the startup. Don't allow a startup to come and spend 3 months, 6 months into your acceleration program and come out without even being introduced to to an investor without helping them, without them being ready for investment. You meet a startup that have gone through an acceleration, an incubation acceleration program. It's like this guy have never been anywhere, but they've just spent 6 months into an acceleration program. So we need to start vetting these incubation programs. We need to start vetting these acceleration programs as well. We must be honest with ourselves. If we need to build a stronger ecosystem, we need to start. Funders, of course, funders also start looking at the big market, because they've still a lot of people now come on social media, they sell themselves, they package themselves. It's not becoming all packaging, and they get this fund, and they don't even give it to the incubators. So funders need to also start vetting all these entrepreneur support organizations that they give the funding to. They must look at real traction. They must get real report on the ground. Because as much as we do a due diligence on the startups, we need to also start doing due diligence on these incubators, onto these accelerators, onto the entrepreneur support organization before we start also shifting the funding to them. And yes, this is the challenge that we face in our ecosystem. But we need to really start vetting ourselves. We need to be more intentional. We need to open up for collaboration. We must ask help. And founders need to be coachable. They need to accept to be coachable, because most of them think that they already know it too much. They think that they've got it all figured out. No one is just, especially in Africa, is going to remove even their $100 or $200, to just put it into the startup if they don't believe in, if they don't trust. So, but they must also start with bootstrapping. That's the purpose of bootstrapping, of talking to friends and family. If your friends cannot support you and your family cannot even help you move from an idea to develop something, then then you want to start talking to a VC. Some of them don't even want to sacrifice. Some of them still drive, have their cars, that they're keeping their cars. They are driving it, and they're pitching the idea of 100,000 of $100,000, and no one is willing, and they've never saw anything, just from a concept perspective, and they're not willing to sell their car to invest in that, but they expect someone else to invest in that. No, it doesn't work like that. So that's why I said we must be honest with ourselves. We'll be intentional. Not that there are no funds. There are funds everywhere, but we need to be investment ready. And incubators need to really make sure that they have the right program for startups.
All right. Thank you so much for that response. It's been very insightful. It had a lot of factors in there. We've talked about the businesses themselves, incubators, funders, and everything. So that has been very informative and really gives us we need to have a holistic view on everyone who is involved when it comes to talking about funding and everything that is involved for us to scale. So I'm just going to read some of the comments that we've gotten so far. So I have a comment from Tamara who says, true, it's high time we develop African-based solutions, at the same time collaborating beyond nations. I think that was when you were talking about scaling. And when you were responding on the agriculture sector in Malawi, we had a comment that said, an interesting idea of utilizing the agriculture sector rather than abandoning it. Context is really important. And then the same person says, I think most times we try to do an entire shift to adopt another country's system instead of building on our context. That's when you were talking about how most people will rush to create an app without understanding the markets, without understanding who this is going to serve. And then we have another comment that says he's cooking. Most apps are built negligently and they put internal belief before business, which is something that we have actually, a lot of people have been talking about it. There's always a lot of excitement when it comes to creating an app. You're like, oh, I have created this app, it can do this, it can do that. But most people don't understand that the app is not the business. So you have to kind of look at a lot of things before you go on to kind of say, oh, this is going to change everything. While you don't understand the market, you don't understand who you're creating this for and exactly what business model you're going to take. Is this impact driven, as you were saying, like, is this going to make us some profit and stuff? So because of time, I'm just going to ask a few more questions. So again, when it comes to the funding, there's been a lot of kind of news going around, especially when it comes to African startups, that most funding either goes to startups that are backed by Y Combinator. Maybe if you talk about stuff like that, and there's not a lot of funding going towards women founders, or there's a lot of funding going towards startups that have other races on their team. So if you are purely an African, you're Black African team, you might not get funding. So this kind of shows that there are a lot of systemic issues as well when it comes to funding for African startups, especially in the countries that don't have a lot of there's not a lot of growth in even in our startup ecosystem. So I just wanted to for you to kind of shed some light on that, and I don't know how other startups can work to be to get to the top where they also have access to funding despite not having the Y Combinator backing, or if you have a female founder, I don't know, how can you stand out, stuff like that.
We have I've always been really, I'm huge on inclusion, right, and diversity, and it's really an issue that we have in the ecosystem. And I always, what really happens most of the time is the fact that if we look at most investment firms across Africa, even beyond, majority majority of them are headed by women. Trust me, majority of these fund managers are headed by women. Yet they don't receive the amount of funding that they deserve. And that's the whole struggle within the ecosystem. We are not building an inclusive ecosystem. I've had I've had it, um, done to work with incredible women across even my team. Even my team is completely made of women, and some people will ask me, McKevin, just wait until someday these women will jump on you and beat you up and they are like, yeah, I will not support you, because I believe in women. I believe in I believe that um, women are doing incredible work. But let's be honest, women also need to put themselves out there. They need to they understand that this is it, but they need to put themselves more um, um, more out there. They need to network. They need to network. They need to network more. They need to and not feel like, oh, because I'm a woman, I deserve this. So I think that we need to really start looking at, especially funders and investors, start trusting women more, because if they don't put themselves out there, I mean, we will still have. They must also be aggressive, right? They must put themselves out there. They must connect. They must network. They must um, 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 support one another. The irony also is that women also don't even support themselves, don't support one another. Trust me, I've been in this because I can see it. Women also don't support, don't support one another. They need to also start supporting themselves also, um, also more. But I strongly believe um, that we must be inclusive. I strongly think that we need to also start having women and sitting on the same on the same table. I strongly believe that that women still have what it takes to to build an ecosystem and diversity. There is no strong ecosystem. There is no strong ecosystem without women. So for them, the advice I can give is that they must start looking at collaboration. That's what I'm saying. The key to building a sustainable ecosystem is collaborating, right? You can be a female founder, but make sure that you have a team. Your co-founder should also could also be a man. could also be a guy. You could also, or you could like collaborating with other founders as as well. So collaboration is key. Partnership is key. Um, um, but more importantly, women should put themselves out there for people to trust. Women should also start investing, right? Women should also start investing, because another thing is that most investors are also men, right? Most investors are also men. Women should also um, um, start investing, um, um, investment firms and things like that, to show that, you know what, they can do this too. But I'm a huge fan of collaboration. I'm a huge fan of inclusion. Um, I'm a huge fan of women being bold enough to say, I to be out there, to say we deserve to be on the same stage, to also create something that not put a lot of emotion, because trust me, we also have a lot of, also come with a lot of emotion. And I think maybe we started looking, that's some of those things that I think that most investors start worry about, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't. So systematic issues, systematic problem is something that we face in Africa and beyond. Not only in Africa, these are things that happen across beyond the continent. Right. But I think keyword key element is women must also start putting themselves out there. They need to start putting themselves out there.
All right, great. So I think we're gonna be winding up soon, but I just wanted to ask towards the end, like, what are some of the trends that we are seeing now, and things that I don't know where the opportunities are? Are there industries where there's high potential for growth when it comes to startups, so that if there are any founders even watching this, if they're creating solutions, maybe they can target those industries?
Philly, Africa, we have Africa is still has the biggest, I will tell you, the biggest untapped market in the world. Europe, Europe, US is food. There's nothing you will struggle to find anything new. That's why we are having this amount of funds that is coming into Africa. We need the every sector is a problem, from education. Uh, Even though if you look at from health, right, from finance, um, right. Although fintech is big now in Africa, the agri-tech sector is also good. That's why I'm saying that Malawi should really leverage on the agricultural sector to push the ecosystem. Health is a critical part in Africa as well. EdTech education is key. These are the four um, major challenges that Africa still has. Although we've been having um, um, funding in this space, startups are dealing in this space, we still need more. We are talking about 1.3 billion people and over 3 billion market, with the youngest youth youth ever in the world. Like I said, we are still struggling. Our agricultural sector is still struggling. Every sector in Africa is gold. And so there's no other, you need to focus on every problem that we face. Right, from transportation to logistics, we're still struggling. Right, what is stopping us from creating an African Uber, where it is? What's up from creating an Africa Zoom, where it is? To for our own market. One thing that I can also talk about is the power of AI that is coming right now. We need every technology that is coming to stay. We need to start embracing AI, and we need to start using it wisely. People say that AI has come to take our job. I keep saying that AI, those who know how to use AI are the ones that are going to take our job, to take your job. It's not the AI itself, because technology has come to stay. We should be happy that these things keep coming, and we need to continue learning. We need to stop. We can't stop learning. We can't stop doing research. And so I will also be looking at the government to really put a lot of fund on research, on data. Data is data is a commodity. Data is the biggest commodity right now in Africa. How many startups are looking into that space, right? How many startups are looking into that space? We find very few startups that are looking into that space. That is the latest goal, which is data. So we need to constantly learn, but we need more support from the government, in terms of research, because startup also, for them to scale and grow, they need a lot of research, and it comes with a lot of funding. But it doesn't mean that it is not there. So the market is huge. Africa is not the next big thing. Africa is the big thing right right now. And until we position ourselves early on, we will allow people to others to come and explore or to come and give the solution for ourselves. Many people are already coming into Africa from the West, and they start solving our own problem, and they take our IP away. And government needs to start looking into how do we protect the IPs of our startup. That's another big thing that we need to look at from a policy perspective. Most IPs are going. I will be honest. In Kenya, is really is happening, and in other countries, in other countries as well. They come in, they get this idea, they put in, they get the fund, and then they take our IP away. We need to own our solution, but we need to put ourselves first. Yes, we will be struggling to respond, but we need to believe in our Africa. We need to believe in our solution, and we need to start and without even thinking. One advice I need to give in the ecosystem is that start fast and fail fast. Stop holding and stop procrastinating. If you think that this is something that you believe in, start, put it out there. And if you fail, that's it, and start pushing. Don't wait, because no one is coming to save us. No one except us ourselves.
Yeah, thank you so much for that response. And one thing that I can just add on is how you have talked about how the government needs to support even in building up of startup ecosystems. I think because one of the biggest challenges in Africa, for example, is infrastructure. So, for example, people who are building solutions for example, logistics, they have to worry about things like the transport system not being up to par. Even people who are working in health, uh, pretty much anything. Even in the data, we have energy issues. We have most people don't have access to electricity. So the government really has to come in when it comes to supporting building up these startups, when it comes to improving our infrastructure. So because of time, I'm just going to take a few questions. If anyone has a question, please put it in the comments. But right now, there is a question for you, McKevin, that says, what are some of the specific scalability factors that tech hardware startups could take into consideration for both development and a sales perspective?
Okay, I think Africa is still struggling when it comes to hardware. I think, like I said before, we need to really, excuse me, we need to really learn, and we need to really learn to invest. Most tech hardware that I've seen that are out there, don't get the right way, because we've not really proven. Government need to start backing some of these technology first before investors start coming in. It, because buying hardware in Europe and in China has become even more something that is quite easier, which makes the fact that, our own start becoming a struggle, because it's quite cheaper. It's quite affordable to bring it to bring it to the continent. So I would say that do your research. Again, like I mentioned, make sure that you have a solution that cannot, even if it had to be brought in from China, look at the struggle that will come in, and that no one needs to go. No one needs to go to China um, to buy. So it's still a very struggling, to be honest, it's still a very struggling ecosystem, still a very struggling space within Africa. But I strongly believe that um, we need do your research. Make sure that the hardware that you are bringing is something that is affordable, is something that people can is sustainable as well. So not because it's still in space, it means that you can just develop any hardware and just think that people will buy um, into it, because it's a lot out there. There's just a lot of hardware that we can get in China. But there's something that you talk about. You talk about um, um, manufacturing. You talk about infrastructure. Look, Africa is facing a huge problem with energy. Electricity is one big thing. We've not even solved. South Africa is every single day. We have that. We have the issue of electricity, load shedding, and this is something that happens across Africa. We are not seeing solution for that. You need to start thinking about that. But again, talking about the government, traveling across policies, traveling across Africa is very expensive. Government is start looking into that. If we are encouraging the AFTA, the free trade agreement, then we need to start looking at what policies are we putting in terms of flight. Just to travel from here to fly from here to Zimbabwe is costly. It's even more expensive than moving from here to UK by flight. Right? From here trust me, from here to Morocco, you need to pass through different countries before it takes you 24 hours sometimes. They said because you pass through three different countries before the country arrive there. So you need to start looking, how do we make sure that traveling is quite even visas is also another issue. When you start implementing startup visas for startups, so that they can pay less when they take flight to travel to one country to another, when they can make things easier for them um, to 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 travel across the continent um, as well. So policies are key. We can't do, no matter what we do, if government don't step in, we can we it's going to continue being a struggle. But I can say is, let's read, take your business seriously, try and read, find more research, find more opportunity, make sure that you have a competition, we make sure you have a competitive edge over your competitors. You will raise funds. There are not funds out there, but make sure that you are ready. Make sure that you are ready for investment.
All right. Thank you so much for that response. Just one final comment here says government policies and tax incentives is one key area that needs attention in terms of tech infrastructure. We also need to invest in sustainable power sources. So there's a lot more than we can talk about when it comes to the startup ecosystem in Africa, but because of time, we're gonna have to cut it short. But for everyone who wants to keep in touch with McKevin, you can find him on LinkedIn. You can see some of the work that he's been up to when it comes to building up thriving tech ecosystems here in Africa. So thank you so much for everyone that joined, and thank you so much, McKevin, for doing this episode with me. Thank you so much for this conversation. It has been very insightful and very informative, even for people who had no idea how they can scale up their businesses, how they can grow their tech startups, and things that they can consider when it comes to growing their startups. So thank you so much, McKevin, and thank you so much for everyone that was watching. See you guys on the next episode. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.